All right, hello, here we are. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you all. What are you guys going to learn about today?
The narrative paragraph.
Yep, writing a narrative paragraph. So you should have a little paper that kind of looks like this. I put it online for you, or I haven't yet, but I'm going to. So we have written, not you guys, but some other people, we wrote an argument paper and we wrote a literary analysis. Now I know both of you guys wrote a literary analysis for Ms. Brownlee last year on the Crucible. Was it the Crucible?
Yeah.
And then you did another type of paper,
Character
the
analysis.
character analysis on Great Gatsby. Okay? The narrative paragraph, completely different. Completely different. All right? So, I put a rectangle around a very important sentence, and it says, narration tells a story. Okay? It tells a story. And so when you're doing a narrative paragraph, you get to use all those fun things, like imagery and sensory awareness. It's not boring and dry like a character analysis. A narrative will have texture. A narrative will be like, I want to read this so I can find out something. Okay? So, there's 4 major things. All right? The first one is they all have a plot. Okay? Now, plots are cool. The plot is on that second page. It tells you about this. Looks like that. Looks like this. The plot graph. Okay? Now, when I taught this in the elementary school, we called it the beginning, the middle, and the end. Oh. The beginning, the middle, and the end. The beginning, the middle, and the end. Now, high school, of course, it has to be a little bit more complicated.
Climax, introduction.
Yes, climax. When does the climax happen? In the beginning, the middle, or the end?
The middle.
In the middle. Because if you had your climax in the beginning, wouldn't that be boring?
Yeah.
The rest of the story.
We don't understand something.
Yeah. All right. Now, it also has a setting.
Oh yeah. Every story you need that.
Now, and usually in your introduction, where your setting is going to be
Probably the first line of your or first paragraph of your story.
Why do we want to do that?
To get the people easy to imagine what happened in
Like how it looks and everything.
how that looks.
Yeah, very good. And then we also have a narrator.
That would be you.
You think?
Yeah, if you're writing the story, it has
You
to be
think?
the person.
Yeah.
Whoever's
Well,
writing the person.
do you think that the author is always the narrator?
I mean, no, it can be a different person.
That's right. That's right.
So it can be
Everyone have a different
third
mind.
person, first person, second person.
Yes, very good, very good. So before you start to write your story, you have to think, okay, the person who's telling the story, is it going to be a person in the story? First person, like use I. Or is it going to be a person outside the story looking in? Third person.
Well, what's the second person again?
Second person is you.
Okay.
He or she something.
I
You.
don't like that
You.
one. I like first
yeah.
person or third person. Third person is the best one, but
Yeah.
first person, like,
But the
bubble,
first
you
person,
could do that.
Yeah.
first person easy to write.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier. So you might want to do this one in first person, or what be really good would be to do one of your stories in
That's
first
what I was gonna
person
do.
and another story in third person.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Mhm.
For the bubble one, I was gonna do the I, so
Uh-huh.
first person, and like for the owl, I was gonna be third person.
Okay. Do you have some ideas?
To go and that we do the first person to introduction,
Uh-huh.
and then I don't know what the next story we choose, but I think that we find the easy one to do the third person.
Okay. Very good. So, and also you have characters. Yeah. And characters can be people, or they can also be like a house can be a character, or the school
you
can be
have
like a character.
anything as a character if it can talk and walk.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good start to think about things. So let me see. Let's look at this part here that says conflict. Conflict between one person and another person, or between groups. Or conflict between a person and nature, man versus nature, or conflict between an individual and the society in which he or she lives.
I have a question.
Yes.
Like what if you do like a character to text? Like what is that? Like character to text, or well, self to text.
Oh, that's when you're making connections when you're
Okay.
reading. Okay.
So would you want that in the writing, like us making, not us making connection, but like have like connection that other people can make?
No, I mean,
Depend on-
it's always interesting. That's a very interesting question, because when you're writing a narrative,
Yeah.
do you want, as the writer, as the author, to think of the people who are going to read it,
Not really.
or
but
do you want to just think of your own story?
Oh.
think of your own story? But I was
Mhm.
just like, just because whoever's gonna read it, I just want
They'll
to
make the
target.
connection.
Okay.
And I mean, you can, I mean, certain people that they'll be like young authors, they write for young kids.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna write a certain way.
That's what I
Or
was
if
trying
you
to
write like
say.
a romance novel, you're gonna write a certain way.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get.
Yeah. So, but it won't be, you won't want to make those connections for the reader, but you want your writing to have enough detail to help your reader make connections.
Sure.
Okay? Because that's the thing that you guys are going to write your rough draft, and I can almost tell you what I'm going to say is it needs more detail. Needs more detail.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And so that's it. But a conflict, if it's like a conflict, a story of like David and Goliath. Do you know the story of David and Goliath? Anybody?
Yeah. Is it like
Yeah.
David was a small person, and he beat Goliath with his slingshot.
Yeah, and so
And Goliath
David was a
huge.
small person, Goliath was a giant.
Oh.
So they were both two men. But David was able to defeat Goliath. So that was an example of man versus man. So a story could be two people fighting with each other. That's your conflict.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if you were to write a story about, well, the coronavirus,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
that would be
Nature.
man versus nature.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, what about man versus society? What would that be an example of?
It'd be like a person, like society is just bringing him down, and like
Media.
he's different.
Media, maybe? Yeah, that's good.
He just trapped it in the house, and he's hidden. Everyone is scary.
Uh-huh.
Because the kid, he have people booing him, and that stuff.
Okay. Or maybe the story with the big ball in the sky, would that be maybe man versus society because the
Yeah.
ball's going to try to take over their
Yeah.
society?
Yeah.
So would that
Or,
be?
like, yeah, one would. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you get to decide what your conflict's going to be. All right. And also there's different organizations and structure. We know chronological order. Okay, when we just do it, it starts on Monday and your story ends on Friday. Or sometimes a story might start in the morning and end in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But that's one thing you have to decide with, is like how much time is this story going to cover? Okay,
I think mine's gonna be the day.
a day. All right, and do you need a flashback?
Oh yeah.
Flashbacks are fun.
Yeah.
I like flashbacks.
And when you watch a movie,
Uh-huh.
like the black and white, sometimes it's fun to see.
Yes, 2 months ago this is what happened. And you're like, oh, so that's why. And
Like
it's
in
fun
the
to put that.
detective,
Uh-huh.
like in the boys, they don't see it first time, but then when they find what happened, they will
Uh-huh.
flashback and see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're missing that, and that's fun to watch.
I
Yes.
would rather narrative for a long time.
You haven't written a narrative for a
Since
long
fifth
time.
grade, I think.
Yeah,
Every
yeah. Okay.
Every manga has some stuff in it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have covered narrators, setting, characters, plot and conflict. And so I'm going to stop this lecture for right now and go ahead and give you some time to write, okay? But this is what we want to look for. This is what we want to be sure to have in our story, okay? Because this is how we tell a story, okay? So that's our lecture for today. Hello, goodbye, thanks for coming.